Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate it. We were planning only to move forward with press conferences every Monday, Wednesday, Friday going forward, but we will occasionally call a special one when we have, I think, some information that probably shouldn't wait for 48 hours. Today maybe being one of those days, so just want to recap some of, again, the events of the last 24 to 48 hours. We don't, just for clarification, we do not have a Sioux Falls City Council meeting tonight. It's Tuesday night, but that meeting is moved to tomorrow night. That was moved several months ago in anticipation of some events we were all supposed to be at tonight. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that, because some of the items that we'll be talking about this morning do require some action from our City Council. So as I mentioned yesterday, on Saturday, I communicated with the Governor's office. We had both phone conversations, several email conversations about a desired shelter-in-place order that I would like to see for Minnehaha and Lincoln counties. Currently in discussions with the state on that. In fact, just was on a call a half hour ago with the state on that as well. And so what's driving some of that, I want to continue that. I'm very clear on what's driving that. And we do talk a lot about data and modeling in this process. And I want to share a little bit of that and continue to be as transparent as possible with that. And so oddly enough, hat tip to the Argus leader. This is data from David Montgomery, of former Argus leader fame, that NPR put out. This is some of the concerning growth that we're seeing in our city right now, and 80+% of the cases, coronavirus cases in South Dakota, are in Minnehaha and Lincoln counties, and so that's where we have a real targeted and, quite honestly, kind of nerve-wracking growth right now. So this is what we're watching very closely. I don't like to see this. We're by far, this is not flattening of a curve. This is a spike. This is a pretty significant spike. With that, we also, on the positive side, have seen the lowest fatalities from COVID of any of those peer states around us, right? Some of that's due to the time in which the death is reported and some of the information that the state needs to compile before a death is reported. But we've been flat here with any deaths. I don't want this to lull us into a sense of security as well, or complacency. We can't measure COVID success, mitigation successes by deaths only, because with that growth rate, this is not likely to stay flat. And so where we sit today, we've calculated new numbers. We sit today at about 270-ish cases per 100,000 people. Compared to some of the peer cities that we often benchmark ourselves against, we're quite a bit higher. In talking with the state, however, this morning, you know, we have two conversations. A lot of times we have the city discussion, and then we have the remove Smithfield from that, and then we have the city discussion, and there's almost kind of two different cases you can kind of analyze, and determining, are a lot of those cases related to contact from Smithfield employees and so forth. Doesn't mean we don't have them, doesn't mean we don't have to deal with them, but we're almost dealing with a couple different situations and scenarios here. So this afternoon, I believe we're going to get this afternoon, hopefully, we're going to be getting a data presentation from the state. Most of this is look-back data. For the first time this afternoon, we're going to see the state's forward-looking projection modeling that they've worked on with all their healthcare systems. We've had data that we're using from our two local healthcare providers, as well as our own data team. And so we're really anxious to get a more in-depth look under the hood on the modeling that the state is using to see how the Sioux Falls growth and the lack of growth across the state fits with their overall modeling picture. I want to say that, again, appreciate the response and the honoring of the recommendations that the state has done, abide by, you know, our governor's executive order and some of the ordinances and proclamations we put in place. I want to thank everyone for that. But we do, because we have a council meeting tomorrow, we do have to notice agenda items for the council meeting. We are going to notice a proposed shelter-in-place order for the City of Sioux Falls. But between our first reading on Wednesday night and a second reading next Tuesday, a lot can change. But in order to keep up with the cycle and pace of government, we have to provide the notice. So we're going to notice that. We're going to have a reading of that tomorrow night. I want to reinforce that I've had a lot of great conversations with the leadership at Avera Health, who also supports us taking these actions. They feel that the time is right to do that. They're obviously seeing a bit more strain than Sanford due to them having Smithfield's health plan contract. So they're seeing a lot of cases as a result of that. So again, very thankful to the leadership of Avera for the work they're doing and their support of what they feel is the right step with a shelter-in-place order for our counties. So that will happen tomorrow night. There will be a lively discussion on that. I want to reinforce one thing that, again, a lot of people say, Mayor, shut it down, Governor, shut it down, Governor, take this, Mayor, take this. I got 8 city councilors. The 8 city councilors are ultimately the people who will make decisions on this. So if you feel strongly either way on the steps that you need to see our city take, I'm certainly hearing from a lot of folks. I'd encourage you to reach out to your city councilor who represents your district, and we have several at large. They need to be hearing from you as well on both sides of this issue. That's important. And so I'm going to be putting some decisions in the hands of our council to make in the next week, barring potential action or partnerships that we may be able to figure out with the state on what they feel the best action may be for our counties. So with that, I'm going to take any questions that you may have today on anything I presented.
Just to clarify, has the governor responded to your request for the shelter in place?
We're in discussions on it. You know, we're in discussion. We just had a conversation, like I said, 40 minutes ago on this. They want to present some more data to us this afternoon, which will kind of further along the conversation, I'd say so.
Questions only regarding this today?
Questions regarding anything?
The Teamsters sent out a letter saying they're concerned with the company they represent here in Sioux Falls. How does your office handle those concerns and complaints, I guess, if you will?
The Teamsters for which union? Do you know?
It's a logistics transportation company they're representing.
Question was, the Teamsters sent out a letter for how their company's handling their response. That's why people are unionized. Those unions will work at the leadership of whatever company that is being challenged with their response. So the leadership of that company and the union leadership will have to kind of get to yes on what their concerns are and figure that out.
So that's a hands-off with your office?
Very hands-off. Very hands-off. No union representatives or no Teamster groups have reached out to our office with concerns other than the conversation I've had with the leadership at Smithfield and their union leadership.
What's Plan B if a shelter-in-place is not approved by the City Council or the state?
Plan B, if a shelter-in-place is not approved by the City Council or the state, is honestly, we probably keep on keeping on. And we continue to just reinforce and double down on the measures we've already taken. And so it's probably the only further options we really have as a municipality. Now, they're working again. I don't want to, you know, you may say, well, they're not working, Paul. We see this spike. Again, I want to talk about Smithfield and I want to talk about the city. So I feel there's a lot of people who are abiding by the rules and the ordinances and the proclamations that we put into place. So Plan B would be we just continue to stress our messaging and work harder to reinforce that messaging as much as we can.
I know there's been a little bit of frustration from City Hall in regards to getting approval from the governor. Is it at least encouraging that these discussions are still ongoing?
Yeah, you know what, the question was there's been frustrations with City Hall and you know, working with other governmental entities. This is a tense thing, and everybody's got a little bit different idea on how to respond, and there's no right answer. And so sometimes when I don't have all the answers, and I don't pretend to have all the answers, and sometimes I have to step back and I have to listen to people of other opinions, be like, you know what, you're right, I understand that, I see that perspective, makes sense, and pivot. And I'm not afraid to do that. I've pivoted several times in our response so far of thinking this was right and then going this direction and going this direction. And I think that's the sign of having a good team around you, keeps you accountable. So we have a strong relationship with Pierre, with the governor's office. We continue to work well with them. Doesn't mean we don't have tense conversations. Doesn't mean there's sometimes we question each other's decision making. But in the end, I know that their intent is the same as our intent. It's protecting the economy, protecting civil liberty, protecting public health. That three-legged stool that we're trying to balance.
Will this data that you said the state would present later, is that going to be made public?
We can certainly share any of this data with you and make it public. So we'll provide it to all your stations after this briefing, sure.
Please do, thank you.
All right, thank you for your time today.